This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring programme that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on.
We're on.
And today's guest, we've got the legend David Icke. David, how are we?
I'm good, man. You?
Really good, thank you. First and foremost, thanks for coming on the show.
No
I
problem.
had you on nearly 6 years ago. You're the man who kind of started it all over 30 years ago. You spoke against the grain. People laughed. It's becoming more the norm now. It's unbelievable how far everybody has progressed, especially lockdown. I think a lot of people then wakened up to the kind of madness and started questioning things. But I'm looking at things now and I see a lot of people, I don't know if it's becoming a trend, whether people call it a conspiracy theorist, a realist, whatever it is, but a lot of people now speak about it and it seems as if a lot of the stuff's getting recycled. Listen, I'm guilty of that myself on the podcast. I'll listen to yourself or other people, and you've wrote over 30 books and a lot of people recycle the same stuff, but it's still good that I think more people are waking up and questioning life a lot more. But it's great to have you back on. We've got a lot of questions, we've got a lot of things to talk about, but first and foremost we'll promote your interview details of the film The Persona Non Grata, which is available for iconic.com, where people can have pay-per-view, the subscribers. It's also free on Good Friday on the 18th of April on personanongrata.film. What's this about, David?
It's about the fact, James, that I've currently banned from nearly 30 European countries, plus Australia. The film is extraordinary in the sense that people talk about freedom of speech and, attacks on freedom of speech. What the film documents is a level of extreme that is shocking to the core. I was asked in 2022 by a Jewish guy to go to Amsterdam and speak for 20 minutes, half an hour at a peace rally. And I agreed. And then all hell broke loose. The government started attacking me. Other groups in the Netherlands started attacking me. And I was condemned by the so-called justice minister as a Jew hater, although a Jewish guy had invited me. And then the media picked it up. I was demonized for 3 weeks in the media, preparing for the punchline, which was I was in a hotel in Folkestone in Kent, waiting to go the next morning through the Channel Tunnel to the peace rally. And this long rambling email came through from the immigration department of the Netherlands government saying, you're not coming. But there was more to it than that, because the Netherlands is part of a border group called the Schengen Group, the Schengen border countries, nearly 30 of them now. And there's this extraordinary rule that if you're banned from one, you're banned from all of them. So I'm sitting there in this hotel in Folkestone, and a few minutes ago, I was preparing to go through the tunnel to the Netherlands to speak for 20 minutes. And I'm sitting there and I'm banned from nearly 30 countries. And of course, I was already banned in 2019 from Australia. And it's extraordinary. So what happened is they first of all said, it's because he's anti-Semitic. Okay. So what we did is challenge it in court. And they couldn't make it stand up. So they changed tack as their reason from I'm anti-Semitic to I'm saying there's an evil elite that's running the world, right? Okay, well, that's my opinion. You may not agree with it, but I have a right to it. No, the minister doesn't agree with it. So what happened then is we had a series of court cases where the judge came in with a rubber stamp each time. I thought that we were in trouble, And so then the 2 years were up. And by this time, the biggest ruling party in the Netherlands was the Party for Freedom, right? The Party for Freedom, headed by a bloke called Geert Wilders, who's a bit of a alternative media hero. Not in my house, he's not. And a minister from that party then decided she was going to renew the ban for another 2 years. And now she was saying, I'm anti-Semitic. Sorry, I thought they'd changed tack. No, it's just crazy stuff. So now I'm facing up to 4 years. And what they said in one of these court cases, the government lawyer, if he doesn't change his views, it will be indefinite, right? And what they said when they were saying, oh, he's going to be banned for another 2 years, is it's because he's not changed his views. Now, it's like I said a few minutes ago, let's just take a breath and ponder on the scale of fascism that we're looking at here in a so-called liberal democracy, whereby because my views are not acceptable to the government, I'm banned from virtually the entirety of Europe. And that's another point. A lot of other countries, not least North America and others, they take the Schengen system as their criteria to ban people also. So, you're on a plane, right? Or you get off the plane, you've got those green cards, which you fill in when you get to America. And it asks you if you've ever been banned from another country. And I'd have to put 30. I've got no chance, have I, really? So it's not just those countries, it's lots of other countries as well. And I would say to those people in the alternative media, a lot of them who've come out of the mainstream since COVID, why am I banned from all these countries and you're not? Why am I banned from YouTube and you're not? And there's got to be something I'm saying that they're not saying that makes me be treated differently than they do. And it's to do with the vastness of what I'm saying and the depth of what I'm saying. Because after 35 years, you do tend to pick up a lot of things that you don't pick up if you've been around doing it for 5 minutes. There's what's being put out. You mentioned at the start of the chat, what's being put out by a lot of people in this, what I call the hijacked alternative media, is basically recycling stuff. It's not moving on. And I see breaking news podcasts, breaking news, this. And I'm thinking, and then they come up with it, and I'm thinking, that was in my books 20 years ago, 25 years ago, And what it is I've always gone on the principle right the way from the start that whatever I know, there's more to know, always. The idea that, okay, I got it now, well, that's just telling everyone you haven't, because there is so much to know. There's so much to understand, not just about the way the manipulation works in the human world, but actually, what is this place? What is this reality? Who are we? What are we doing here? How do we get here? There's so much to understand, and it all connects in the end. And when you understand more about the nature of reality and what it is, the day-to-day manipulation starts to make more sense suddenly. And so you're always saying, I am anyway. Okay, this is what I know, what I think I know at this point, but what don't I know? And so you're always open to moving on and pushing on. It's like there's that guy, Socrates in ancient Greece, who's quoted as saying words to the effect of, wisdom is knowing how little we know. To know is to know you know nothing. That's the secret of true knowledge, because that keeps you humble. It keeps you in a mode of, there's so much I don't know, so I can't stop seeking more knowledge, because there's so much that I don't know by definition of just being here. There's so much I don't know. And what I'm seeing in the what I call the hijacked alternative media is people have come in and they're basically, they've circled the wagons and they're just recycling the same stuff, and it's not moving on, and it's not going into other areas that we need to go into. And that suits the cult, as I call it, the global cults behind all this. It suits it magnificently.
But see, because of the things we're catching up with, David, now, do you feel as if they're 100, 200 years ahead anyway, because of the stuff that we are questioning, but they're already programmed to then be so far ahead anyway?
Well, if we look at one aspect of this, this global cult, as I call it, is a global network of secret societies, but they're fiercely compartmentalized. I mean, if you look at a secret society like the Freemasons, they're broken up into degrees. And what are those degrees? They're degrees of knowledge. This is the key. How much knowledge that people have, because the more knowledge you have, obviously, the more you see, the more you are aware of. So the idea is to create this global cult, of this network of interlocking secret societies, but it has an inner core, an inner circle, and that's where the real knowledge is. And if you look at say the Freemasons, you've got the 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite. And then you come down the degrees, and most Freemasons are in the bottom 3 levels of degree. So there will be overwhelmingly ignorance of what they know. And then you have the individual secret society, but then the cult web goes on into higher and higher levels. And they will know phenomenally more than Bill and Joe down the bloody lodge does, who will be kept overwhelmingly in ignorance. But what they're doing through this compartmentalized system is they're passing over through the generations knowledge that they keep from the population. And that knowledge relates to, obviously, the agenda that they're following for the population, more and more and more centralization of power and control to create this, in the end, we're seeing it unfold now, AI-controlled dystopia. But they're also passing over through the inner core of the cult, the nature of reality. What is this place? How does it work? Who are we? Where are we? And this same cult, and you can document this. The people involved in this cult, like the Rockefellers in America, for instance, and others like them, they have created the sources of information that the population get. And the idea is you pass over your advanced information through the inner core, through the generations of this global cult, and you control the information that the population get so they are always massively in ignorance of what they know. And this chasm of difference is so vast that when people like me uncover what's happening here and say to people, this is what they're doing and this is how they're doing it, it's so fantastic to people who've been through the cult-controlled education system, that get their information from the cult-controlled media and so on, that they dismiss it and they think you're crazy and a lunatic. So there's two worlds. There's the world of the population and there's the world of the cult. And the difference between them is the scale of knowledge they are allowed to have. And this is very, very basic in terms of the foundation of the whole conspiracy of human control is control of human perception. That's it. And so how do we form our perceptions? We form our perceptions from information that we receive. Now, the cult has advanced information at its inner core anyway. The population has systematically suppressed information. And that's designed to control the perceptions of the population so they see themselves and the world and world events in a certain way. When the cult is orchestrating what people see on the news for very, very different reasons than they actually think, the population think. And so you have a situation with censorship that is all to do with control of perception. Because if you're allowed to know all the information available, you're going to see yourself and the world in a certain way. If it's squeezed and censored, so you only see information that suits this cult to get you to perceive yourself and the world in a very limited way, then you're going to have a perception of powerlessness, of little me, of I've got no power. And when people are in that perceptual state, that limited perceptual state, that's when they look to so-called experts to tell them what to think. They look to teachers, they look to scientists, they look to academics, journalists even, madly. And these experts are in institutions that this cult controls. So it's the job of people like me to uncover what people aren't being told so that they can perceive the world and world events in a much more expanded way. And that's what's been happening.
What do you think we are, David, with all your research as a human being? Do you think we could be avatars, aliens, computers, possibly a simulator? Like, how deep does it go, do you think, in your own opinion, why we're here and what we actually are?
Well, I've been saying since just after the turn of the millennium that this is a simulation. It's like a massively, massively advanced version of a virtual reality game simulation. And I've been saying since the 1990s that the human body is a biological computer. It's a receiver transmitter of information. And so you look at the bigger picture of what we're involved in, and you realize that this technological explosion that we're seeing unfold, computerization and AI and all this stuff, is actually a technological mirror of the very reality that we're experiencing and how we experience it. So if there was, for instance, a Wi-Fi field, there probably is a Wi-Fi field in this studio, where is it? You can't see it because it's operating on a level of frequency that we can't see. And if you said to somebody, there is a field of information in this room which you can tap into, what we call Wi-Fi, which you could tap into anywhere in the world, and you can put on a screen the basically decoded images from this field. If people didn't know about computers and didn't know about Wi-Fi, they'd say you were crazy. If anyone had said that 100 years ago, they'd have said, you're mad, you're crazy. But now, knowledge, people are aware of computers and they're aware of Wi-Fi. When you say to them, oh, there's a field of information in this, a radiation field in this room, and you can tap into, oh yeah, Wi-Fi, I know about that Wi-Fi, yeah. And then you look at, okay, so how does that Wi-Fi information become what we see on the screen? It does so by a computer decoding it. And if you look at what happens with a computer, you tune it in basically to part of this field. Say you're going to a website, and it will decode that website from the information in a radiation field into what you see on the screen, which is like videos and graphics and words and all this. And it's all going on inside the computer. It's not going on over there and over there and over there. It's going on inside the computer. And what we're doing is observing what's going on inside the computer by looking at the screen. And we're seeing the decoded version of that field. Now, this is basically how we're experiencing reality. You know, quantum physics has shown for a very long time now that there is no physical. It's illusory. As you get deep enough into the energetic field, there is no physical. It doesn't exist.
So we've touched things then, what is that then with the feeling?
That's an electromagnetic.
Or if we hit ourselves or hurt ourselves, we can feel it.
Yeah, because you know, the programming that the body has, the software program that the body is designed to decode, like the computer, to decode the information field, which is the simulation, into what we experience. Now, if I said to people, that wall does not exist outside of me, it exists in here, they'd say I was crazy. But that's what scientists are now more and more beginning to understand. So let's look at how we create reality. The way that we interact with the simulation, the Wi-Fi field, the cosmic Wi-Fi, is through the five senses. And what those do is pick up frequency information. Wave forms, wave fields within the Wi-Fi field, the cosmic Wi-Fi field, carry information. This is well known, and it's how we turn the television on, and the television kind of works. It's all frequency and decoding of frequency. That's what the television is doing. It's decoding frequencies, and so you are looking at a field of information, the cosmic Wi-Fi field. The five senses interact with that. And if you take a simple thing like hearing, what is hearing? It's picking up sound waves. And what the ears do, and the hearing senses, they turn those sound waves into electrical signals. And they communicate it to the brain. And the eyes do the same, and all the senses do the same. They're picking up frequency information They're turning it into electrical information. They're communicating it to the brain. And the brain then takes that information and forms it into a sense of reality, exactly as the computer does with a Wi-Fi field. And so you're looking at a reality that appears to be external to us, but it's actually all in here. And the body is designed as a biological computer to decode this reality, to decode this simulation field. And we, in our prime form, are consciousness. We are eternal, infinite consciousness, awareness. We are simply, in our prime form, a state of being aware. No form, just a state of awareness. And that awareness then experiences this reality through the body, because that awareness is operating on frequency levels that could not interact with this reality, couldn't pick a cup up and have a cup of tea, because the frequency is so different. So we take on this outer shell called a body, which is operating within the same frequency band as the reality we want to interact with. And so we pick the cup up because we're all operating on the same frequency. But the body is not who we are. It's what we're experiencing very, very briefly. And what we call death is simply that point when the biological computer ceases to function. And when it ceases to function, it ceases to decode this reality. And this is why you get these now endless numbers of near-death experiencers who have their body has ceased to function and then it's been brought back to life. And in between, they have these experiences in a reality that is completely different to this one. And the common themes they describe are fantastic in terms of how compelling the common themes they describe are. And so death, which frightens so many people, because people fear the unknown and death is the ultimate unknown. That's why they keep that's one of the big reasons they keep us in ignorance of the bigger picture. There are many other reasons, but that's one of them. It's because what we don't know, people tend to fear. So when the body ceases to function, it ceases to decode this reality. And people find themselves in another reality. What finds itself in that other reality? Consciousness does. The consciousness that's been experiencing through this body all along. And, you know, one of the things that people overwhelmingly don't realize is how little of this world and this reality and the wider reality that we can actually see. You know, it's my view that at the earliest possible age that they can grasp it, children should be told that when you look into a room, like whatever space you're in, you're not seeing everything in that space. All you're seeing is a narrow band of frequency called visible light. And it's so ridiculously tiny, it's almost laughable. Because according to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum, which is basically our experienced reality, is 0.005% of the energy in all its forms that exists in the universe. 0.005%. Visible light, which is the only band of frequency that we can see, is a smear, a fraction of the 0.005%. And so humans are basically blind. We can only see a narrow band of reality. And I don't think that's an accident either. So once you start to realize that, a lot of things that seem to be impossible start to make sense. So you get these people who say, honestly, I saw this UFO and it appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared into nowhere. Or people say, oh, I saw this entity at the end of the bed and it kind of just appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared into nowhere. And what's the response of people who are kept in ignorance of reality? It's, you're mad, mate. What you've been drinking. But it's perfectly explainable. Because what happens is when something enters visible light from outside, from another band of frequency, to the observer, in the band of frequency, the only thing it can see, it's appeared out of nowhere. And when it leaves this visible light band and goes elsewhere, to the observer, it's disappeared into nowhere. But it hasn't. It's just entered and left the band of frequency that you can see and observe.
How is that, David? See, when someone says you're crazy or this, because a lot of people are waking up and questioning a lot more in life. Life is full of static. We've got vaccines, we've got the schooling system, we've got noise, we've got entertainment, we've got porn, we've got alcohol, we've got drugs now, we've got social media. So it's hard to really get to the source. But there is people waking up. And when you start questioning it and people try and tarnish them and call them crazy, what's the best way to handle that when, even with lockdown, there was only a very small percentage went against the grain and questioned it. Wait a minute, you wear a mask, you get these vaccines, you get this booster, but you can still get this so-called killer disease. But when people question it, it is scary for people to talk about the stuff that you're talking about or just question why. How difficult, and what should people do when they do get targeted for being crazy, just for questioning on?
Well, COVID was a wonderful example of all that I'm saying. Because people are kept in ignorance and they are kept in a state of inadequacy, feeling inadequate. And so they look to the experts to tell them what to think. Now, these experts in these various institutions are paid often high salaries as long as they repeat the narrative that's coming out of authority. So if you were a doctor during COVID and you spoke out that the whole COVID thing was a hoax, which it was, you were out the door. You weren't a doctor anymore. And many people experienced that. If you were anyone in the system during COVID that spoke out against it, if you were a teacher or an academic or any of them, you were out the frickin' door, right? So there was a phrase a long time ago, which was basically, if your income depends on something, you are likely to agree with it. You are likely to say it's true when your income depends on you saying it's true. So you've got all these so-called experts, and all they're doing is repeating what they're told the party line is. So doctors went with the fact that the fake vaccine, which wasn't really a vaccine under previous criteria, that it was safe and effective. None of them knew it was safe and effective. But the line was, it was safe and effective. That's what they were told to tell people, so they did. And now you've got the population, and the great vast majority of them are looking to experts to tell them what's going on. And what they're doing, the experts, are telling them what's going on according to what they're told is going on. And so when they said there's a deadly virus, which there wasn't, then people believe the experts who said there was a deadly virus. when they said, and to save yourselves from the deadly virus, you've got to have this fake vaccine, they overwhelmingly had the fake vaccine because they feared the consequences of not having it, and also the pressure of you're going to lose your job if you don't have it.
You can't travel.
Yeah, you can't travel, you can't do anything. And what people like me did from the start was say, I don't buy it. So, Mr. Experts, I don't believe you, because I know that you're just repeating what people in the shadows are telling you to repeat. And so I started questioning it, and I started researching it and uncovering it. And before very long, it was in very early April of 2020, I realized that the whole thing was a hoax to the point where there was no virus. It didn't exist. And that the whole scam was designed to get the content of the vaccine they were planning into as many people as possible. So because my knowledge, because of that research, was expanded on what was happening, I didn't follow lockdowns. I didn't have the jab. I didn't wear a sodding stupid mask. I didn't do any of it because I was aware that it was nonsense. And I had enough self-respect to say, I'm not going along with the nonsense just because you're intimidating me. I'll tell you a quick story. I must have been one of the first people who was subject to the mask mandate in Britain, because I'd done an interview in London, and I was coming back to the Isle of Wight, and the Isle of Wight ferry came in just before midnight, and the mask mandate started at midnight, right? So it's a car ferry, but I'm on foot. And so I stood there, and I'm watching these people walk off the ferry without masks. And then I walk on the ferry just before midnight, and this guy hands me a mask. He says, you've got to wear a mask. I said, I'm not wearing a bloody mask. So I walk on, and I go into the lounge, and because it's like, oh, it's a deadly virus, everyone's in their cars, right? No one's leaving. I'm in the lounge on the boat on my own, nobody with me, with this mask that I've been handed. And then about halfway across, the captain came down, and he said, I can understand why you won't wear a mask when you're the only one in the lounge. I thought, oh, we're making progress then. He said, but when you walk off the boat, would you mind putting it on when you walk off the boat? And I said, so what you're saying to me is you want me to put on a mask to walk past people all sitting in their frickin' cars and then take it off when I get off the boat? And basically, yeah, you must be having a laugh, mate, because I actually have some self-respect. And therefore, I'm not going to do ridiculous, because that's what it is. And that was because you realized what a scam it was. Now, if you're not doing that, if all you're doing is taking your information, your perceptions from experts that are just parroting the government line, the authority line, then you're going to lock down. You're going to put a mask on. You're going to have the jab. And it's the only difference between me not doing any of it and them doing it is knowledge. That's all it was. And also the fact that I won't be intimidated and told what to do. Thank you very much.
But it is scary, David, to see how fast the world got shut down. When you actually look back now, people were sitting in pubs 2 meters apart, but yet the bartender would pour the pint, the waitress would come over the pint, the people never seen their missus give birth. They've got loved ones dying in hospitals, and the nurses are coming up with paper at the window saying They're in a better place now. They've passed away peacefully. And I understand, I'm not here to shit on people, because people genuinely were scared and thought they were doing the right thing, because human beings we're all right people. We kind of want to do the right things, but if you don't question the norm, if you don't question what's going on, you will easily surrender. And too many people complied for my liking. But sometimes, David, I questioned, what if I got it wrong? Because I was still climbing my mountains, I was still keeping away in nature, and people were targeting me. And you do, because with that peer pressure, just going through my journey, I did question, what if I'm wrong? And what if all these majority of people are right? So a lot of people genuinely wanted to help and they wanted to travel, but when you actually look back at it, you realise how big a farce it actually was.
Well, it was a classic farce. I mean, I sat in a cafe and I watched big strapping blokes come to the door, put their mask on, walk to a table, take it off, put it on, go to the toilet, come back, take it off, put it back on to walk back to the door, take it off when they got in the street. And, you know, we are, if we open ourselves to it, we are expanded states of awareness. We are expanded states of consciousness. We can expand our consciousness out into infinity if we choose. But because we don't, and because the pressure is to conform and to only see the myopia of life, like instead of the expansion and infinity of life, we live our lives in little boxes of what? Of perception, and thus behavior. We behave as we do because we perceive as we do. If you want to control how people behave, you can control what they perceive, and you control what they perceive by controlling the information from which they form their perceptions. It's a very simple process. If you control information, you control people. And to get past that, we need to do our own research and say, hold on, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I tell you this, my experience of life is that authority lies, right? That's what it does. It's what it's there for, because it's trying to control the perception of the people. And all these experts have their perceptions controlled, and they pass their control of the perception onto the population who believe them because they're experts. Well, they must know what they're doing. Well, maybe they don't, actually. And so you have this situation where people live their lives in this myopic view of reality, in which they look outside of themselves for being told what to think, whatever. And COVID just brought that into stark reality. You know, there's 8 billion people, apparently, on the planet. They don't count them. And the number of people in full knowledge of what they're doing in terms of this conspiracy within this cult is absolutely tiny compared with that. So how are the few going to control the many? Look back through history and see how it's always been the few that have controlled the many. Why? Because the population in general has given its perceptions away to the few. And often it's just, well, they tell us what to do, so we must do it. And then there's a group that says, I really don't want to do it because I don't believe it, but what are the consequences of me not doing it? And those two groups, the ones that believed authority without question, and this other group that doesn't really believe authority, doesn't want to do what authority says, but fears the consequences of not doing so. Those two groups are responsible for every tyranny in history. Because fascism communism, and all these other expressions of tyranny, they don't, they're not imposed by fascists and communists and tyrants, because there's never enough of them. Tyrannies happen because of the population's acquiescence to tyranny. That's why it happens. And so if you look at COVID, the reason that tyranny could be imposed was because of these two groups. The one that just believed authority without question, and the other group that said, I don't really believe it, I have questions about it, but what are the consequences of me not doing it? How many people were jabbed because the consequences of not being jabbed were they'd lose their job or whatever? And then you've got the third group. And the third group, which we're trying to make bigger and bigger and bigger, is the group that has ended every tyranny in history. And they're the ones that look at authority and what they're being told, and they say, I don't believe you. I've done my research. I know you're lying to me, and I'm not cooperating. I'm not cooperating with my own enslavement by doing what you tell me when I know that what you're telling me is to control me and to enslave me. I'm not doing it. And if you look at COVID, particularly in London, because I was involved in all that, when COVID started, a few people were protesting, and they were easily picked off by the police and arrested, and that was it. By the time the COVID restrictions ended, there were maybe 100,000 people, I was among them, walking through the streets of London, protesting against the restrictions. And the police were on the side of the road watching us walk past. Why? Because there's just too many of us to stop. Because there's not enough police. There's not enough in authority to stop that number of people. So that's the big fear this cult has, that you have a unity of response, where we put down the fault lines that divide us, the irrelevant fault lines of religion and race and income bracket and all these things that